welcome back to another reading vlog. And today let's kick off the beginning of fall season. Like, autumn is calling to me in a major way, and so I decided to make a reading vlog dedicated to that. I feel like as a whole, as a collective, we are really calling for fall, and we are really just wishing for the leaves to turn brown and to have like that cozy vibe all around. I am not sure about what I'll be reading for this vlog. I haven't decided really, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, I am reading this one. So this is the first book that I'll be reading for this video. And already, this has given me a tiny little bit of dark academia. And I feel like it's the right choice for this time of year. So this is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. And here we have a heist book. And as a whole, I'm just very intrigued by it. I've already started reading it, currently page 72. And this is not very long, but you can tell that this is more of a lyrical writing style. The author is really taking their time with setting up who these characters are, really developing them and exploring their inner monologues. So already I feel attached to it, and I'm loving, absolutely loving the way that this is being written, the whole plot that is being set up. It's one of those that I feel like I'm reading it at the perfect time, and I'm loving the experience of it. So we have a cast of 5 characters, and this starts off with some very high stakes, very emotional. We have this museum being robbed. And the thing about it is that one of our main characters, Will, works at this museum. I think it's a college museum. In a way, this museum is attached to Harvard, I think. I think it's Harvard. Harvard, yes. And he sees the whole thing go down. And at the same time, it starts something in him. That robbery, that whole situation kind of lights a spark in him, so much so that he manages to steal something for himself. And that is what starts everything, because somebody sees that, somebody contacts him, and what ends up happening is that he is invited along with some other people to go to Beijing, and they are tasked with procuring and kind of taking back, not kind of, exactly, taking back these Chinese statues that were appropriated by Western civilization and museums. And so far, this is bringing up some very interesting discussions, and I'm really enjoying the setup, seeing how each of these characters come from a different place and they have something different to contribute to the group. All of these characters are either Chinese, like born in China, or they are Chinese American. And I just feel like this discussion is going to be very interesting, especially because China in itself is not innocent, and it's not opposed to imperialism. There's a lot of that in its history as well. So seeing the characters battle with that, because China is not at all innocent, but in a way, this is still property that belongs to the country. And so seeing those discussions unfold, it's such a rich subject to explore, especially in literature, because with different characters you can have so many varying perspectives. It's very interesting how they will be planning the heist, because so far they decided that the best approach in the beginning stage, the best approach is to watch media regarding heists. So they're watching Ocean's 11, they are reading books about heists, like historical heists and how they went down, how people got away with it, or how they can travel abroad without being really acknowledged and without leaving a trail and all of that. I just feel like because they have no experience with this, I am so intrigued to see how this will all play out. Let's do a little update. Excuse the lighting because today is very cloudy, very autumn-like, and so sometimes we have brightness, sometimes we do not. So I apologize for that. But let's do a little reading update. I'm currently halfway through Portrait of a Thief. I am loving this one so much. It is definitely not super fast-paced, but I think it is the perfect pacing for this book because you really need to take your time to get to know the characters and to feel a certain type of way for them. You need time to develop the relationships between these characters, and only then will the plot be important in some way, especially because this is a very high stakes kind of mission and storyline, and so you need to care for the characters because it is high stakes, but if you don't care what happens to them, it's whatever. For all you Atlas 6 girlies, pick this up, you will not regret it because it has such similar vibes, the way that the characters are introduced, the way that they think, and the relationships they form with one another. If you enjoy the Atlas 6, this will be a bit of you. I guarantee it. And I'm loving the writing style. I have underlined so many things because I just love the way that this is written. And then, because I am a mood reader and I cannot for the life of me only read one book at a time, I'm also halfway through, oh, you can see that, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And I'm also enjoying this one very much. I got in the mood to finally pick this book up because it's one of those classic books that everybody has read and everybody recommends, and it has been on my TBR for a very long time, so I finally decided to buy it and to read it, and I'm having a great time. I'm reading physically while also listening to the audiobook, and I'm really enjoying that experience. And this feels very much like classic fantasy in the sense that you get to go into this world and understand it very slowly. And we see our main character from a very young age and we follow him through different stages in his life. But the way that this is told feels very classic because it feels like you're being told a story, because you are. The way that this is written, you have your main character, or our main character both, and he is telling his life story to a chronicler and somebody who wants to know the reality of his life, what actually happened, what is the truth, what is the myth. And so there are certain parts that are told in first-person POV because he is narrating his own story, and some others when you are in the present day that are third person. And I am loving that dynamic, and I'm loving to explore these characters because you are introduced to them in the present day, and in the beginning everything feels, as is the norm with fantasy, everything feels a little bit confusing, and you get a little bit of glimpses as to something not being what it seems, but you don't really know these characters yet. And so getting to go kind of back in time and fully seeing the progression of his life and how he got to be where he is and why, I always love that. Also, I have to say that if you enjoy Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, I feel like this will be the book for you. It's not that they are exactly the same tone. I feel like Nevernight is a little bit harder to get into because of the writing, but the story feels very similar. It has some points of contact, the initial trauma in childhood, and then the university setting, that mentorship kind of situation feels very similar. I need to update this because I have read the audiobook more than the pages that I have my bookmark on, and yeah, I feel like the audiobook is a great choice. I am enjoying the narrator very much. It just feels like the perfect time to be reading this book because it is very moody, very atmospheric. Those are the books that I'm currently reading. Also, I have some others that I got recently that I may or may not read for this vlog, probably will, but I'll update you once I either pick more books up or once I finish the ones that I'm currently reading. A thing that I forgot to mention, and I was just looking at the back of this book, did you know that this is going to be a thing on Netflix? I cannot wait for that! It says right here, Portrait of a Thief is her debut novel and is currently in development at Netflix, with Grace serving as an executive producer for the series. Oh my god, yes. Absolutely yes. Imagine college-age students traveling the world in a heist novel series. Yes. Yes, please. Yes, please. I didn't mention it in this vlog, but let me talk about it because I am currently very deep in K-dramas. Tell me that this is not top tier K-drama material. Not K-drama because they are Chinese, but you know what I mean. C-drama material. Oh my god, give me this yesterday! Yesterday! This will be... Whenever this comes out, this will be my life. I'm hoping, I am dreading the ending, and I'm hoping that I love it with everything that I have. This needs to be like a proper good show. Please, like beautiful people, beautiful settings, beautiful writing. Yes, please, that's all I ask of you. That's all I ask of you. Please, this has so much potential. So, I finished The Name of the Wind, and now let's talk about it because I enjoyed this one very, very much. And this is the thing I love the most about mood reading and why it works so much for me. Because when I'm in the mood for a specific book and a specific type of story, I fly through it. Like this is 660 something pages, and I flew through this in like less than a week, and I loved it. I love the process of reading this book because I was really feeling the narrative and I was into the story. I was excited to get back into the world, and so everything just lined up perfectly, and I love it when that happens. Objectively speaking, I enjoyed it. It's not exactly what I was expecting this one to be completely honest. So let's talk about it more in depth. The thing about this is that we have the premise explained, the premise for this whole series explained right at the very beginning. So you have this very secluded person who we don't really know much about in terms of his story, who he is, why he's hiding at all, but we know that he is hiding, and through circumstances and all of that, he comes to tell his story to this chronicler. And the deal that they strike is that for 3 days he will tell his story. So each book will be 1 day of him telling his life story. So this is the first book, and we see him remembering his childhood, his early teens, and early-ish. I don't know if we got to him being an adult. I felt like when this book ends, he is kind of a teenager, like 15, 16 years old. I'm enjoying his story historically, like the going back and understanding his childhood and all of that. I'm enjoying those aspects, but already I am so much more interested and so much more intrigued with the present timeline, because he has this sort of student, apprentice. I don't really know what he is, but from what we gather, he is Fae, or they are Fae. This character has this plan of bringing Kvothe back because they are hiding, and we don't really know why. In that storyline, we only see glimpses of this character, but I am so invested. They feel so interesting. Second to last chapter, got me hooked, because if not for those chapters, I feel like I could read this and not pick up the second book in a very long time. Okay, but then we get the second to last chapter, and that got me much more involved and excited to see the rest of the story. So I will definitely be continuing on with the story. Now, the thing about this that took away from my enjoyment were the female characters, because I feel like we have a very classic situation of a manic pixie dream girl here. Only from that point on, the third of the book, fourth, do we see the introduction of this female character. And the way that he portrays her, and even the way he sets up her character and her entrance in the story, feels very manic pixie dream girl, because she's not like other girls. She is very different. She's very special. And he's describing her in a way that his apprentice in the present is countering. Like, she was not all that. Like, sure, she was cute, but her nose was crooked. And he's like, shut up. You don't know her like I do. This is my story, and so this is how I feel about it. And throughout the whole book, that is never challenged. So I don't know if this will change in the future, but I feel like every female character that was part of this story felt very one note, and we didn't really, because we see from Kvothe's perspective only, I feel like we didn't really get the chance to break down that stereotype and break down that myth of who these female characters actually are for themselves, not just for Kvothe. And that took away a little bit of my enjoyment for this. Whenever they were on the page, Kvothe had them very high on a pedestal, and at the same time, Kvothe as a main character didn't feel interesting enough at this point in time to carry the story along. So for me, this was an enjoyable read because I was really in the mood for it. But objectively speaking, this is a 4-star. I really enjoyed the writing style. I really enjoyed the setup that this will probably be for the next book. I didn't fall in love with this as much as I was hoping, and that is the thing with expectations. Everybody raves about this book so much that I was expecting not there to be like so much more to it than what it is, but a little bit of that. I was expecting there to be like slightly higher stakes, or the characters to be like so compelling and so enchanting, and I didn't really feel that. I enjoyed it for what it is. It was a good book, but I was lacking that connection to Kvothe. So I'm hoping that I get more in the second book. I finished Portrait of a Thief. I loved this book. This is a new favorite book because it was so unexpectedly incredible. Everything I could ever possibly want it to be. And now I will be raving about it till the end of time, especially because the reviews I have heard so far about it are very middle of the road. This book is so good. So I really don't understand what's in here that could disappoint people. It just wrapped up so perfectly because obviously this is a heist book. And I think in every heist situation, you have the chance to be of two mindsets. You are either very nitpicky and you really want everything explained to you and realistic to the highest degree, or you are just looking for a bit of fun and you are willing to maybe not understand everything 100% and you're okay with that. Here, even that, I feel like we got the best of both worlds, because obviously you have to suspend your disbelief at certain points. Maybe not everything is as detailed and as accurate as it should perhaps be, but it works so well and it is so realistic. You don't have this mastermind that all of a sudden, never having done this before, suddenly knows all the answers. You don't have that. But I actually don't think that this is really unbelievable. I loved the ending, how he managed to wrap everything up, and how the author managed to give it a solid but fulfilling ending. And I still hold the comparison to the Atlas 6 very strongly, because if you enjoyed the way that the Atlas 6 introduced you to the characters and developed the characters, how in each chapter that you see from their POV, you got to know a little bit more about them, but slowly, this has the same approach, and with each character interaction you get a little bit more, and it's never all spelled out for you. And I loved the writing style. It's beautiful. I highlighted a ton of things. I especially adored the way that this talked about art and the importance of it. Also, if you enjoy the Raven Boys, I can definitely see a comparison to this one as well, especially with the friendships and the dynamics of having someone being extremely idealistic and the other characters going along for the ride because of that one leader. You have that here. You have that character that is kind of pushing everybody on a certain path, and people, because they admire him or because they love him or whatever else, they go along with it and they try their best for him. A new favorite of the year, and a true favorite. I can see myself going back to this book, rereading it, and appreciating it all over again. 5 stars, absolutely 5 stars. Just on a quick note, and this almost feels like fate, I was finishing the last round of edits for this vlog, and I was watching some YouTube videos, and look and behold what ended up being posted, I think today. This is Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. I don't know if you watched that or not, but this episode, I will link it down below in the description box. You'll have to watch it because it goes so well with the whole premise of Portrait of a Thief, and expands the conversation, or it kind of digs a little more specifically into the history of everything, and especially the history of museums. But it was just so poignant that I needed to bring it up. So I hope you will check the link out because I found it very insightful. The last book that I'm going to read for this vlog is this one. This is Witch Hat Atelier Volume 1. And this is a manga, but I know nothing about it. I was just one day browsing, and honestly, I was really in the mood to read something witchy. I stumbled upon this one, and I really enjoyed the illustration style. It felt like something that I would enjoy, and so I am going into this one completely blind. I'll update once I finish it, yeah, because this feels like a quick read. So once I'm done with it, I'll tell you what this is all about. So it's a new day because I thought this would be a one-time reading situation, but then I just couldn't find the time to actually sit down and read it and look at the beautiful art. So this took me 2 sittings, but it was just what I wanted. It was so cute. This is middle grade, so ages 10 plus, it says in the back, and it's exactly the type of thing that I wanted in terms of witchy content. It's so adorable. So I think I mentioned in the previous clip that going into this, I knew absolutely nothing about this story, which is typical of me, but I have read this and it is so adorable. More people need to get in on this because I think it has everything to be a crowd pleaser. So, Witch Hat Atelier is a manga that focuses on our main character, Coco, and she lives in this world where there is magic. There are witches. I think it's what they're called, witches, yes, because sometimes they are warlocks and stuff like that. So, in this world, there are witches, but you have to be born a witch to practice magic. And it's one of those dreams that, even though she is very young, it's one of those dreams that she's had forever, ever since she was born, that she was fascinated by magic. And there are little glimpses of magic out in the world, but it's not something that everyday people can do. She works in her mother's shop, and they are artisans. They work with fabrics and making clothes and stuff like that. And one day, this witch happens to be passing by, and stuff happens, and what ends up happening is that she becomes a witch apprentice. The illustration is perfection. It's so beautiful. The art style, it's so detailed. Look at this. It's so much work just creating this image, and now think about like 100 pages of this style. It's so beautiful, and it is never overwhelming. I adored this. I will definitely be continuing on with the series, especially because this feels very reminiscent of some animes that I used to watch when I was a kid. And with that, we come to the end of this reading vlog, which has put me in the perfect mood for fall. I just adored these books and absolutely recommend all of them for fall. I'd recommend them any time of year, but especially fall. They go very well with this season. So just to recap, I read Portrait of a Thief, new favorite, loved it. I read The Name of the Wind, which I really enjoyed, very classic fantasy, and I will be continuing on with the series, as well as Witch Hat Atelier Volume 1. I will also be continuing on with this series. It was just such a great reading time. If you have recommendations based on these ones, let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!